Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Who all are too new to my channel, do not forget to like, share with your friends and subscribe the my channel. So here is my channel name, and today we'll talk about the something new. So let's go back to the previous session what we have discussed. So we have discussed about the Terraform modules and how we can able to reusable the infrastructure. We talk about what is models, why we need to use models, how to create the folder structures, everything. So today, day 7, we'll talk about the environments. So how to create the multiple environments using the models. So how to use the EC2 model using the multiple environment like dev and productions. So let me talk about this. So for example, you have a three environment like dev, stage, and productions. Okay. So you wanted to reuse it. For example, you have 10 project. You wanted to use the same configuration that 10 projects. So you can write a one time, then you can start deploying into the multiple projects. So I'm going to show it to you how we can able to create the environments and uh, different uh, environment like dev, prod, stage, anything. So let's get started. So let me go back to the AWS console. Let me start our Terraform server. Let's clear this. Let me start the server. So you can able to use any ID. From there, you can able to try to configure Terraform. You can apply it. Okay. So, but here I'm using Terraform. I mean, Windows Server from the AWS only I'm using. But so if you are using the company laptop, you can able to use it for company laptop. Just install the Visual Studio Code and try to write the code and deploy it from your laptops. So let's so before going to that, I'm going to show it you the Terraform folder structure. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create the folder structure here. So I'm going to create the folder called Terraform. Okay. And inside I'm going to create the models. Under the model, I'm going to create the EC2 or VPC and environment. I can create a dev and production and stage, QA, blah, blah, whatever you want, you can able to create it. So under the each environment, I'm going to create, these are all the files. Okay. These are the mandatory. Okay. Under the modules, what are the resource we are going to create it. That is what I mentioned here. The same thing we are going to do it in the Ansan. Let me go ahead, connect it. Let's get the password. Decrypt. D- Download it. Just copy the password. Let's log into the Windows server. Now let's me delete this folder. Let me create the folders. Let's create the folder called Terraform. Let me go inside the folder. So let's open the Visual Studio Code. So before going to write a code everything, let's create the folder structure. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create the folder called modules. Under the modules, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create the EC2 folder, and then I'm going to use VPC. Under the modules, I'm going to create one more folder called EC2. Okay. So next, I'm going to create the environment under the, not under the modules. I'll create it under the folder structure here. Okay. Let me create a folder here, environment. So under the environments, I'm going to create the environment like dev prod. So if you have a multiple environment, also you can able to create it. So this is how, okay. So now again, I'm going to create it files. So let me go to that under dev. I'm going to create a file called main.tf and variables.tf and terraform.tf vars. Same for all the environment. I'm going to do it. So then I'm going to create a providers also. So some companies they are going to use it same providers. Some companies they are going to use it different providers. For example, I'm going to show it in the how we can able to upgrade the providers everything in the last session. So this is a standard. Same thing I will do it for prod also. Main.tf providers variables.tf. So here I have created. So then under the models, what are the things we are going to create it? Let me show it you. So modulars never change as per the environment. Only TFRs it is going to be changed. Okay. So whatever we have mentioned TFR side, this is going to be changed. We are not going to touch all the times environments. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, let's create the under EC2. I'm going to create the main.tf. Okay. Let me under the EC2, what I'm going to create it under EC2, right? Just type it resource AWS underscore instance. So let me instance name. You can give it any name. Like I'm going to say, I can give it EC2 demo, and I'm going to use it AMI equals to var.ami underscore ID. So these are the things. First, we should create all the variables, then we can able to rate it. So now what I'm going to do, let me do it here. Then later I'm going to create the variables because I'm already familiar with the steps. Now I can type it instance type, again equals to sorry, var dot instance type. Then I'm going to use it tags. So let me, so I don't want it to waste the time. Let me just add it here. I'm going to add it, the tag also. Then I'm going to create the one more file called variables.tf under the EC2. So this models works everywhere. No hard-coded values. Environment aware it. Okay. Now let me go to dev environment. So here we are already added. So AMID, right? So here we are using instance type string and instance name and environment tags. So now I'll go to that under the dev providers. So I'm going to just add the Terraform versions details and which cloud provider everything. And again, I'm going to add it variables. Under the variables, I'm going to use this, all this, whatever variables we have added, right? All this I'm going to use it here. String, AMID, instance type, string, okay, tags I'm using, map. So map, how do we use this map? So there is a Terraform documentation from there. We can able to adapt this one. How we can able to use it further also. Then I'm going to use it under the dev. There is a main.tf files. So I'm going to use it modules. Okay, this is the source. So the source, what it will do, it will go to that modules under EC2. It will check that variables, variable.amid, tags, everything. It is fetching from there. Now let me use the terraform.tf first. So here we are mentioning everything. So what is the AMID, everything? We have written it. Okay. Now let me go back to under VPC. I'm going to create a. So before creating EC2, we need to create the VPC, right? So let's go to create a main.tf. So main.tf, what are the things I'm going to add it? VPC, subnet, security group, I'm going to add it. So let me go back to here. I'm going to create a VPC. I'm going to create the public. So the count also we can able to see it. Okay. I'm going to use it count here and the security group for to allow the 22 port number. Okay. Now let's go to that. Let's create a variables. Okay. Then I'm going to use it under the VPC. I'm going to create one more file called. Okay. Something wrong here. Let me go back to here. Yeah. I think this is one extra. Let me use it. Let's see to do. So let's open the terminal here. Let's create a first is dev environment. Before that, what we can do, let's add the prod environment details also, like providers.tf files, everything. Let's create all the files once, then we can practice it. Providers.tf. So if you're able to see it, I'm using 5.0, the version. Okay, and then variables, main.tf. So same thing I'm using, whatever I'm using in the dev also same thing. That is why I'm using a variables. Okay. So only thing is you need to change the value CS only, variables files, like AMID, whatever the value you want, you can just change it. So right now the tags, right? If you're able to see it, I'm using a my app, okay, platform team and environment, everything I'm mentioning here. So this is will fetch from the variables. Sorry. So now, so we have created a dev environment and prod environment, same thing. Okay. So you can ask me that why this variables and why here is the variables. Okay. So it will fetch from the, while creating the environment, it will fetch these variables. Okay. For example, if you wanted to create a prod environment, so here what you are going to do it. So it is asking for the string. String means it will ask for the input. From input where it will take it here. For example, EC2 level, right? So it is required any of the values like environment details. It will fetch it from here. Okay. So here and here it is integrated. All these variables it is integrated. So it will just fetch it out. Wherever environment it is asking, prod it will ask. Okay. Let me go to that environment. See if you're able to see there is a environment variables one. See. So that will be fetch for your environments from here. And instance name also same thing. Instance ID, AMID. So you need to change the values only TFRs only. Don't change it any other files. Okay. Now, so right now we are in the environmentary and environments and models. Let's go to that environments, ls. Let's see cd dev. So if you wanted to create a, so now we can make it ls. So you can see everything. Now I'm going to do it Terraform init. And in the meantime, let's go to that AWS console here. Right now we are having only one server. Let's see. There is only one server. Okay. Next, Terraform, validate. Okay. Next, Terraform, apply. So if you're able to see it here, there is no state file created, right? So once we created a Terraform apply, so this is going to be create the under the each environment, it is going to be created your Terraform state file. If you're able to see it, see. Okay. Let's go to that AWS console. You can see it, dev EC2. Okay. Same thing for, let's go to that VPC. You can able to see the VPC also. So this is for only a few models only. You can create a ALB, you can auto scaling, and different resources you can able to create it. Okay. Under the main dot. Okay. So we have mentioned only EC2. So EC2 by default it is taking. Okay. If you are wanted to create another VPC everything, we can add it here also. Okay. That is also can able. Right now we are creating only for the EC2 model. Now let's move on to the. So now what I'm going to do. So right now we have created a EC2 module, that is EC2 machine created. Now unfortunately I'm going to delete the this state file. So if we are deleted, what it will happen? Let's see. I have deleted. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, if I'm trying to apply it again, so what this it will do? It is going to be created a new EC2 machine because the earlier one we are already deleted manually. Okay. So that is why it will say that there is no state file. Okay. That is why it is going to be created. Okay. Let's go and verify it. See here. So state file, it is very important. Okay. So we should not delete somebody one. Okay. That is why we are going to talk about the remote backend now. So let me go to that. Okay. Let's clear it. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, let me talk about the backend. So I'm going to talk about add remote backend S3 plus DynamoDB. So S3 for used for to store the state file, DynamoDB for the locking. Okay. For example, if some multiple developer they wanted to at a time if they wanted to create any resource, this DynamoDB what it will do, it will stop it if multiple people are working. First in, first out. That means O is executed first, let it complete it, then second person it is going to be executed. So that is the reason we are going to use this remote backend and to store the state file to working with the multiple developers. Why it is required? Prevent the state loss, enable the team collaboration, enable the state locking, S3 for the storage blocking, DynamoDB for the state locking, required for the teams. So now what I'm going to do, let's go and create the DynamoDB first. So let's go to that DynamoDB. Let me open the S3. So S3, I am going to use it, the existing one. If you want, you can create a new one. So let's, so I'm going to use this 5 hours backup. This is the one sample one I have created. So as of now, there is no environment here. Okay. I'm going to use it. This is a store S3 bucket to store the state file. And now I'm going to create the table. So table name, I'm going to use it Terraform logs, and partition key, I'm going to use it log ID. Okay, let's go and create the table. Okay, so once it is created, Let me go to the EC2. So now what I'm going to do under the dev, I'm going to create a one more file called remote backend, because each environment I'm going to create a remote backend. So let me explain here. So what this it will do. So backend, I'm going to use it S3, and this is the bucket name, and so this is the state file. So I'm going to create the dev. Under the dev, it is going to be stored the TF file. So nobody cannot able to delete it. And I'm going to use a DynamoDB for the log system. So now again, I'm going to just delete the state file here. Then I'm going to apply it. Okay, so we need to insert it. Okay, successfully configured the backend S3. Terraform will automatically use the backend unless the backend. So now let's go and apply it. So whatever we are going to create it, the state file it is stored under the remote backend only. So let's make it S and we'll. So let me go back to here and check the under the S3 bucket, our dev state file should be created. See, dev underscore or state file it is created. If you coming to AWS console, dev EC2, it is created a one more initializing, right? So that is how we can able to create the multiple environment. Now let's me go to that cd.dat. Let me create a prod also, right? Cd prod ls, okay, Terraform. So for the prod also, I'm going to create a one more backend. Let me create the remote backend. Okay, I'm going to use it prod. So same thing, only the key, whatever you are mentioning here. Okay. So now Terraform init. If you directly, if your Terraform apply, if you executed, you will get error. So without initiating, it will not take it. Now let's go to that AWS console. Let's see that here you can able to see the prod EC2. See, it is created. So now we are talk about the almost all EC2 module. So tomorrow I'm going to talk about the VPC module also. Okay. So thanks for the watching. See you in the next video. Bye bye.